What is going on, guys? Ryan from Livin Salty here, and welcome back to the 5th episode of Work Smarter Not Harder. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you guys my top 5 favorite lures to throw. Now, these lures work whether you're inshore or offshore, whether you're in New York, California, Florida, or anywhere around the globe. These lures can catch fish everywhere. Now, before we jump into the video, I just want to say really quickly that I am not affiliated with any of the brands of the lures that you guys are going to see here today. I purchased all of these myself, and they just really work for me when I go out fishing. All right, so starting at number 5, we have the Swim Shad. And this one in particular is made by Storm. I found that this one's a really good, high quality swim shad. It is definitely essential in your tackle box when you guys are fishing. This one in particular is kind of a clear silver color. I haven't used any of the other color swim shads before, but I found for the purposes that I was buying this lure for and to imitate kind of a glass minnow, pilchard kind of bait fish that we have around here in South Florida, this color kind of worked best for me. So that's why I threw this color lure. Now, these lures come in a bunch of different weights, and that's just going to depend on your situation, like the water depth and the current and stuff that you're fishing is how much weight you're going to be needing on your lure. Now, this wiggle of the paddle tail is going to be amplified underwater. So what feels like just a little wiggle and vibration for us is going to send signals to fish way further away than you would ever believe. When I fish this lure, I don't jig it or anything like that. I kind of just reel it in straight through the water. I don't want it sitting and bouncing at the top of the surface. I don't want it jerking around everywhere. To me, the way I do it is I just reel it in straight, let that paddle tail do all the work and bring the fish right to it without needing any extra jigging. Okay, so next up at number 4 is going to be one of the first lures I really fished when I came down here to South Florida, and that is the TerrorEyz. So this TerrorEyz in particular is the 3-inch TerrorEyz. This is my go-to. I've tried the smaller TerrorEyz before, and I just didn't like it nearly as much. I'm not able to cast as far with it. Overall, I think it's a little too small. This is a nice big bait for a big old snook or jacker to eat. This color in particular is a silver one. I also really like the root beer, so the silver and root beer are kind of my favorite colors. Same thing, these eyes come in different weights, so depending on your current water depth and everything is how you're going to want to determine what weight to use for this. Now, the cool thing about TerrorEyz is that the body and the eyes are separate and they could be bought separately. So a lot of times you'll have something bite and ruin your soft plastic here. You'll have a barracuda, something with sharp teeth, will come bite the soft plastic, rip it apart. So then it's pretty much garbage. It's not going to swim right. So they sell the replaceable bodies so you can buy the replaceable body and just throw it on. Also, I've had a lot of times where we damage the eyes and stuff that on here, so we'll buy replacement eyes for it. It's just all around a very convenient setup to have. I've caught tons of fish on this lure, and the way that I mostly fished it was I casted it out and just did a slow retrieve back. I mixed it around. Sometimes I just retrieve it straight, sometimes I jerk it around. This lure might look like it doesn't have a lot of action. Its tail doesn't really resemble something like the Shad here that has the big old paddle tail with lots of surface area, but you'd be surprised, fish go crazy for this TerrorEyz. I've also seen people drop this TerrorEyz straight down to the bottom next to a piling and just kind of jig it around on the bottom, almost treating it like a bucktail or something like that. There's a lot of different ways to fish this TerrorEyz, and it can catch a ton of fish. And like I said, this is pretty much one of the first lures I bought when I came down here to South Florida, and I had a lot of success with this. Okay, so coming in at number 3, we have the Zara Spook here. Now, this is a topwater plug, and it is the only topwater lure that is on my top 5 list here. Now, one thing I love about this lure is right here. See, that's not just the treble hooks bouncing around. Let me hold the treble hooks for you. You guys hear that? That rattling noise? That is an internal ball that is inside the lure here that drives the fish absolutely nuts. And I would say I love fishing this lure just for that sound. So if you guys saw my last video that I uploaded, which I caught, did a barracuda catch, clean, and cook, where I went fishing the sunrise and hooked into a couple barracudas. It was awesome. You guys should totally check out that video after you're done watching this one. But I was using this lure mostly in that video, and this lure is an absolute monster when it comes to the sunrise bite. The clicking noise drives the fish absolutely crazy. So the way I use this lure, if you guys can go see me actually using it if you guys look at that video, but I'll take it and I'll I'll give the rod tip a little like jig as I'm reeling it in, and basically that's gonna send the bait going this way and this way. It's just gonna do a little zigzag motion like this, and you guys hear how every time it rattles, that's what it does in the water. And just like how this paddle tail, its vibrations are amplified underwater, the sound of this click is amplified underwater as well. So it drives the fish absolutely crazy, especially on that sunrise bite. I had fish blowing up the surface after this lure. It was absolutely epic. You guys definitely check out that video. Now for the color, down here in Florida, this perfectly resembles a finger mullet. Its color, its size, everything about this resembles a finger mullet perfectly. The way it swims, just kind of jagged. Yeah, perfectly represents that bait. So I would only stick to the colors that resemble a mullet. It's got a nice white little body here and brown darkish top, and I feel like this color is going to work best, especially down here in South Florida. Something that looks a little bit more natural. So yeah, when it comes to the sunrise time and sunset, you know, the dawn and dusk are pretty much the best times to throw your top order lures and artificials in general. My go-to is always going to be the Zara Spook. Now, we were just talking about natural colors for the Zara Spook, and funny enough, number 2 on my list, I prefer not really very natural colors, and that is going to be bucktails. Now I got a couple different bucktails to show you guys here today. We got a green one there, and we got a white and blue one here. Now, I have fished with bucktails my entire life. They are absolutely essential no matter where you live. Inshore, offshore fishing, these fish always chase after bucktails. That's a rule of thumb. If fish is hungry, they'll eat a bucktail. Now, white is always the universal and kind of go-to for everybody that starts off buying a bucktail. I know this one doesn't look very white anymore. It's just kind of a little beat up, but white's always a good option to get with a bucktail. But I prefer the unnatural colors. So like a green chartreuse kind of color here for this bucktail is really nice, but also one of my favorite ones, I don't have one on me, I don't know why I don't have one, but pink bucktail is one of my favorite things to throw. I don't know why, I have the best luck using pink bucktails, but usually my go-to is a green bucktail, green and white, fully white, or pink, fully pink, pink and white, that kind of thing. I also just happen to have this blue one in there that I throw. Does the color matter? I think it does make a little bit of a difference, but it's not going to make or break your day. If a fish is going to eat a bucktail, I think most of the time it's just going to eat the bucktail anyway. But I think the color, it does give you a better opportunity to like dial in what fish species you're trying to catch. So one thing I love to do when fishing a bucktail when I lived back in New York was to tip this with a scented soft plastic. Usually I just use Gulp. Gulp is the brand, but everyone kind of just refers to that genre as Gulp. So basically it's a soft plastic that sits in a bag that has these juices in it that are supposed to attract the fish, and you would just put it right on the hook and it would just play out just like any other soft plastic. Just like how this is, there's a weight in the middle and this is fed through. It's the same thing, but it's scented, comes in a little bag, you get it on your clothes, it smells disgusting and it's gonna be there for a while. But yeah, so I tipped it on a bucktail all the time, and it usually had a nice little long tail on it or something like that, and it drove the fish absolutely crazy. I've caught more fluke in my life on a bucktail tipped with a Gulp than any other bait that I ever used ever. Now, this is a method I haven't tried down here in Florida because I haven't really seen that many people do it, but I'm certainly going to give it a shot because it definitely worked for me back then, so why not work for me here? There's also another variation to bucktails. There's something called a flare hawk. I'll throw a picture on the screen of what it looks like. I don't have one on me, but basically it has the feathers here, and it also has one little ribbon that goes even further out, like another 2 inches. Nice little variation to the bucktail. I haven't really noticed a difference in the amount of fish catching it, but it gives it a little extra flair, hence the name flare hawk, and it's not a bad idea to pick up one of those as well. So the way you want to fish this is that you're going to not just skim it along the top of the water. That is not what a bucktail is supposed to do. You're supposed to either jig it around in the middle of the water column, you can let it sink all the way down to the bottom and then just jig it as you retrieve it back, just bouncing it off of the bottom. You can jig it in the middle of the water column. You just want to let this thing sink and rise back up as you reel it in. Just give it a nice little motion like that. You don't want to drag it across the top. You don't have to jerk it or anything. Just let the bucktail do the work going up and down. Now the other way that I have fished bucktails, and I did a lot, like I said, when I was in New York, when I tipped it with gulp, is that I dropped it straight to the bottom and then I just jig it. So I just jig it right here on the bottom as we were drifting along, and the fluke and unfortunately sea robins would go crazy for it as it just sit here bouncing it off the bottom. Bucktails are absolutely essential to have in your tackle box, and you definitely are going to want one. Now we are coming to the #1 spot here for my favorite lure to throw in any scenario. But before I show you guys that lure, if you guys could hit that like button if you guys are enjoying this video, and consider subscribing down below. It really helps me out a lot and allows me to keep making videos just like this one for you guys. All right, the moment you guys been waiting for, and if you've been following along my channel for a little while, you probably know what's coming. My #1 favorite lure to throw is a silver spoon. Now it's actually still attached to my pole. That's why you see a leader, because I just have it always on the ready. The silver spoon is the ultimate lure for me personally. I have caught so many fish on this, and recently I caught my second biggest snook, which was my first slot snook actually. I caught a 32-inch snook on this tiny little lure here. This tiny little lure in comparison to my hand, a 32-inch snook destroyed this thing, and it was an absolute blast. I've caught anything from bluefish to fluke to striped bass to sea robins to snook, to jacks, ladyfish, you name it, I've caught fish on this lure. This lure absolutely slays for me. It is essential, absolutely essential to have a silver spoon. Now I've seen them come in different colors, they come in different sizes and shapes. This is the one that I throw the most, so I have the most luck with it. It's about 2 inches long altogether. The spoon itself is about 1.5 inches. I have some bigger ones. I have some ones that have tubes on the end, a whole bunch of different variations. This is just my always go-to for inshore. If I'm fishing offshore, I'm probably gonna step it up to probably a 2-inch or 2.5-inch spoon part, and then maybe a little bit tube at the end that's about 4 inches long. But overall, the silver spoon has always been my most productive lure, and there's tons of ways to fish it. Sometimes I'll just do a nice slow retrieve right along the top, and it'll just wiggle along and do its twirly magical spoon thing. Sometimes I'll jig it around, so it'll be all sporadic, jumping around everywhere. Sometimes I'll do a really fast retrieve, just straight, fast jigging around. The one thing I don't really do with this lure is let it sink to the bottom, because these treble hooks are going to get stuck on absolutely everything that's on the bottom. So you're not going to want to do that. You want to keep in the middle of the water column or towards the top. But this lure, guys, catches tons of fish. Please go pick this lure up and give it a try for yourself. I guarantee you guys will catch fish with this too. Now I've seen gold spoons in the store before. I've never bought them just because I love the silver so much and I have so much luck with it. There's really no theories to it. I just have personally never tried the gold before. Maybe I'll give it a shot. If you guys want to see me fishing it in future videos, drop a comment down below and let me know if you guys want to see that. But yeah, this is my #1 go-to lure in any scenario. Now, before we wrap up this video, I just want to say that something I heard from a very wise captain down here in Florida, Captain Mike from Florida Sport Fishing TV. He said during one of the seminars I attended that people always have their favorite lure and stuff that they swear by, and they say it catches the most fish. And it's funny that a lot of us have different opinions. Like the silver spoon's probably not at a lot of people's lists, and a lot of people's lists are very different than what mine is going to be. And it does come down to your favorite lure. You probably end up throwing the most, which means you have the best chance of catching fish. So I said I've caught the most fish on that silver spoon, but if I threw my TerrorEyz here or my swim shad as much as I threw the silver spoon, I might catch just as many fish. You're gonna have to leave that up to your personal opinion, what you want to do. That's what works for me, so that's what I throw the most, but I also catch the most fish on it. So keep that in mind when you guys are looking at other videos, lure videos, and you're looking at my videos and you're determining what to buy. Whatever you throw the most, if a fish is hungry and they're going to be eating it artificial and not just sticking with live bait that day, then they're gonna eat pretty much whatever artificial you throw at them. Maybe, you know, we'll leave that up to interpretation. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about that. Thank you for making this point of video. Like I said, if you guys like this video, please hit that like button and consider subscribing down below. It really helps me out a lot. It allows me to keep making videos just like this one for you guys. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys check out the other videos in my Work Smarter Not Harder series. I will link one that I think you guys will really like over here on the left side of the screen. All right, make sure you guys stay tuned for more Livin Salty content in the future. I have some really good video ideas in store for you guys very soon. All right guys, until my next video, remember to keep living salty.